speaking about older generations, how supportive were they of you and what you were being involved in as far as demonstrations and all that?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I recall at one incident at Albuquerque High School. It was spring in 1967, and we had heard a commotion outside our street, outside the school street, and you know, like loud noises and cars honking and all that kind of stuff. So we, as students, we were curious, and everybody got to look out, and then kind of walked out of the classrooms, because what was happening was there was a demonstration, a street demonstration, coming down from the University of University of New Mexico, which was up the street there from our high school, marching down to downtown. And it was probably a group of maybe 200 students. And most of them were Anglo or Gringo students marching, demonstrating against the war. Well, you have to understand that our high school, predominantly 30% of the Hispanos were going off to the war. They were drafted. We had a, what's the word I'm thinking of, is a military kind of student body on campus. ROTC, the Army ROTC. So a lot of our colleagues and friends were in ROTC, and they knew that, you know, pretty much a lot of them were going to go to the war. And not only that, the war had been happening since 1960, of course. So we had families that were involved in the war. So our point of view at that time was to support our youth who were going there, and we were supporting the war, you see. We're not quite understanding all the undertones of that war, just like the majority of the population didn't understand that. So we didn't understand what these people were demonstrating against, and why were they bothering trying to come down our school demonstrating against the war when most of our friends were going to go to the war. You see? So even us, at that time, we were ignorant. So I think when you ask the question, how does the older generation respond to kind of our movement as it evolved, is that they probably didn't understand it until we got into the movement and the civil rights issues of, questioning that war, questioning why so many of our kids were going, and why were they the only ones that really were overrepresented in that war. And a lot of them were being killed in that war, needlessly. That's one issue. The other issue was housing. The other issue was health care. Okay? The other issue was, of course, access to education. And so when you put in perspective all those things that we were questioning, I think the elders, if you will, began to understand what we were trying to do. It took some time, and it took I think an evolution, if you will. We talk about the 60s were a revolution, but really it was an evolution. It was a stepping stone. We stepped up. We evolved as a culture, into this society, if you will. And we began to question, where are we and what are we doing here? And who is that political base that's telling us what to do? We can choose our own destiny. You see? Mm-hmm. We can choose which way we want to go as a group within this society. We have to begin to define that for us. And I think that's what happened in that era, is that you had a larger number of people that came out questioning that, and self-definition did evolve.